university, so it's an academic institution, but I come from the Department of Creative Arts, and specifically from the film and television section, where telling our story is very important. And I tell my students, research, research, research. You need to do research in order to tell your story, so that you can tell it in a complex way, so that when the audience sit, they are inspired by the story. They see themselves within the story. They have questions about their stories. So they are engaging with the story. So research is very important in any work that we do. I think in any work that we do. And it takes time. It takes time. I just have to give a little bit of a story. We were doing a training at the University of Dar es Salaam. This was a directing workshop training. So, everything that is said, you ask questions, why are you doing this way, why that way? And the response that I was given by some of the filmmakers at that time, they were saying, this is all well, it's very good, but we don't have the time. We don't have the time to set it that way. The amount of money that we are given, the time constraint that we are given, does not allow us to go to that extent. So that is where I think we need to put more effort. We need to understand. And for those who give us money, they also need to understand, to tell a good story, you have to really do your research. You have to really understand it, understand where it comes from. Only if you understand, that's the only way you will be able to get your work across, across Tanzania, across East Africa. Because first of all, you are telling a human story. It has to be a human story, a human experience. And a human story, it doesn't matter if one is from Tanzania, the other one is from South Africa, the other one is from Brazil. A human story with human condition touches everybody. So in that way, you will touch your Tanzania, East African community audience, but just as well, you will touch the global community, because you are telling a human story from your perspective, from the local experience. So research is important to be able to tell your story to the world, to your community, and so that, again, you can be out there. It's very important to tell our stories. If we don't tell our stories, others will tell our story, and their stories will be our stories. So let's do research, let's tell our stories.
Other people are telling our story, not us. So we have people from outside, we have outsiders, we also have broadcasters, and who are basically dictating to us and telling us which stories to tell. For example, if you take your story now and you go to your broadcaster from whatever country you come in, look at the story and say, this is not the narrative that they want to drive. Like, for example, in my country right now, in South Africa, you're going to find when you go there, because there's a narrative that you want to speak. It's a single woman, independent, LGBTQ society. There's certain narratives that they are pushing. If you go to the story, I find a black man here who's doing A, B, C, and D, then I say, nope, no one wants to see this. So it's a problem now, because they're the ones who've got the money, they've got the funding. So now you end up having to compromise, because every day, this is a business. It's a liberty. So at a point, you're going to have to find out, but you know what? I have to compromise, because sometimes you have to decide, you know what? Let me just give them the story they want. Hopefully, I can get a bit of money from there, and I take that bit of money, and I'm able to go do my own story authentically. So as things stand, it's other people are telling our stories, and they're not authentic.
So how do we come together? How do we all come to the table to negotiate our stories so that it's a win-win situation? And then when I say we, I think we have to think about the we. Who are the we? Because as individuals, I don't know if I can go to a certain company and tell them to tell the story the way I want, and unless they would also say, okay, it's good, it meets our audience, it's our niche, that's okay. But if it's not, they will say, who is the actor or actresses in this work? Because they know a certain name, certain features will sell more than others. And since it's a business, and I teach a class where we were saying, in film, you want to minimize the risk so you can make profit. So So how do they minimize the risk? They usually minimize the risk by saying, oh, Isarito, he sells. Let's have him. Take out, Mona. Mona, we don't know, audience doesn't know. Put Isarito there. Isarito will sell. Then you have to think, I don't want a name. It's the story that I'm selling. So there's a negotiation that we have to make. But when I say we have to come as a we. As an individual, it's very hard to make changes to a system that is out there. But as a collective, we are able to sit and say, this is how we need to tell our story. And we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest. We have to understand art plus commerce equals film.
It is a question of who has the power, right? And for too long, I think this question has been asked from a framing where we as filmmakers feel as though we are in a lower level than the people who we are trying to reach. But that's not the truth. Without us, we wouldn't be able to even see what there is on most of our broadcasters who have now become our main distributors on the continent. That's just the truth. That means that they're dictating what the ecosystem looks like, from pre-production development all the way to distribution. You ask yourself, how much ownership do we have of our own content when this happens? Usually, very little, if any at all. I think somebody else had brought up the question of royalties, Leonard. You talked about this, and I think it's an important aspect, because I think where we are right now, I don't think the worry is whether we're telling African stories, not telling them. No, we are there. There's a lot of beautiful work coming out right now. Cannes had 10 African films for the first time. I think it was 2 years ago on its roster. That is something to celebrate. The last time that happened was never. Usually you had your one-offs, But now, internationally and locally, I think we're seeing a huge pool of talented individuals. But the question is, this whole structure and ecosystem is being dictated for us as African filmmakers, not the other way around. We have no sources of funding that are secure. We don't have an ecosystem that's thriving because everybody's trying to make money where they can, which is understandable. But also, there could be, and Dr. Mona, that things are moving forward, and it's great that we're not where we were 10 years ago as Tanzanian filmmakers. But there is a lot to be said about how even those of us who are here on this panel can speak together and work together to ensure that the ecosystem is benefiting everybody from South Africa to Somalia.
The need to tell African stories. Africa is a continent, it's not one country. We have, the last time I counted, was like 55 countries. Mm-hmm. So each African country has their unique perspective, their unique story. And we have stories that have to be universal. They have to appeal to all different humans from all different parts of the world, as Dr. Mona said. So, but we have to tell our stories, not others. So, for example, if you hear about Somalia and you think about films, what comes to your mind? Black Hawk Down, right? Captain Phillips, pirates, people who are fighting, civil war, destruction, conflict, and that's like 1% of the story. No one is telling the other 99% of the story. That's where we came in. That's where we decided. Now the world's connected. We need to tell stories. So we change the impression and the perception people have of us. I grew up with Tarzan, the jungle, and I see a white man who's hanging from the trees, talking to the giraffes and elephants. And that's Africa that people used to show. But now, thanks to African filmmakers, that has been changed. We had, as Sisi said, 20 African films in Cannes. Last time there was a Somali film there who actually won awards. It was a simple story. A village next to paradise. We are sitting in paradise. We are storytellers. We are a nation of poets. When we talk about Somalia, My mom can tell me 100 stories. If I go, I get bored. The story she tells me, I don't have a time. I don't get bored, I mean, like, I don't have a time. But she tells me stories. So I have to write these stories. These are stories that come from ancestry. My friend here, I was telling him, I know someone who looks like him, who is a storyteller in my own neighborhood. So when we tell these stories, we have to tell it in a way that it will appeal to someone in Latin America. Someone was talking about the city of God. We all felt that was our story. So we have to actually tell stories from our own perspective, but they have to be authentic. In Somalia, we are very poetic. We are a very oral society. So dialogue matters. If you do something that is wrong, when you are writing a dialogue, people will catch you. Your audience will catch you. So you have to appeal, and you have to know who your audience is. If you want your audience to be a global, first you have to actually satisfy your local audience. So you have to write for them. You have to produce for them. Yes, money will come. So for us, we are building the ecosystem. We are building the Film Commission in Somalia. They say, like, the value of something, you will know it when you lost it, but also you will know it when you see it coming back. We are at that stage. We see our storytellers are coming back. We see our young people are actually writing it. They are making videos and putting on social media. They are changing the perception. For example, in Somalia, the capital city is called Mogadishu. Internationally, it's written Mogadishu, but in Somali, it's written Muqdishu. When you Google these two different writings, you will see different stories. When you Google Mogadishu, you will see destruction, you will see war, you will see famine, you will see pirates, you will see terrorists. But when you write Mogadishu, you will see a different story. A story of success, of reconstruction, of resilience, of beauty, of landscape, of peace. Zanzibar doesn't feel different to me because that's where I came from. That this place looks the same in Mogadishu. So when we are talking about writing our stories and depending on others, I think we figured out that, like, when you depend on someone, they will dictate their own interest to you. You have to build yours first, and then negotiate and bargain with them. So that's what we're doing at Masrah. We are building our own ecosystem. We're building our film school. We're building our film academy. We're building our film commission. We're building our own production. We're investing our own money, and we're giving it to the people so they can appreciate it. And we go to our telecoms, we go to our cable providers, we go to our business people. We are building a partnership with them before we go to others. So that's why, because they know, the story they know, if they see that, this story will appeal to their customers, and they can actually sell their products through our stories, they will invest it. And that's normal everywhere. So that's how we approach it. But we have to understand African stories are universal. Everyone will understand it.
As an African child, as a Xhosa child, if you dare do that, you're going to get a hot clap. If you bang and say, I hate you, I tell you, take your bags and go. Go to where people, go to where someone likes you, basically. There's a film called Ineba, which I think it won 9 awards. It became one of those big things because it was done by someone else, not us. It became very controversial. It talks about the rite of passage, circumcision. Yes. And in our culture, we are not allowed to let other people know about that. It is one of those secrets that you keep to yourself. Because we say, if you want to know, go through the process, the circumcision, and you will know. So you don't want to ask, hey, how does this go around? How does it happen? You go and experience it. But this film was about that, and also how you tell that story. Because now there's certain things you show, certain things you don't show. That film became very controversial because these are two guys who are in the circumcision school and they were gay. That was the whole story. Two guys and they were gay, and because they huge there, like people were angry. So that's why it's critical who's telling what stories. But it comes back to the same thing of if you don't have the money. When I go there, like, change it. Because what happened to that story? Broadcaster says no, because that story was a simple story. The only thing they say, put two gay guys. And then to a different story, basically. Because and then they will give you money. And they did that. It went all over the place. It got so many awards because of that. So it is critical, guys. This is why, as Africans, we need to start collaborating. Because we can tell stories from, because like it says, our stories are universal. If I can tell a story from a Somalian, a South African, or South African goes to Somalia, a Somalian comes to South Africa, and the experiences they go through, it means that film will be a hit in South Africa and a hit in Somalia. So that is why we are trying to do these platforms. We need to collaborate as Africans. That's the only way we can ever take control back, because if we come together as groups, I've got the NFF, National Film and Video Foundation, which is those guys, what they do is they will give you funding. And then he goes to the Somalian Film Commission, they give him funding. He goes to the Ugandan Film Commission, they give him funding. He goes to the Tanzanian board. So now we don't need the broadcasters. Now we've got 100,000, we've got 400,000 development. And then we go and ask, now we've got the script, we go ask for a million. So that's what we need to do to start working together. Unfortunately, South Africa's got it's got co-production treaties now. I think with Tanzania, I think recently with Kenya, they are doing those things. And then once you start collaborating, like if you're from Kenya, okay, there's Canada, there's Kenya, there's Brazil, but I'm talking about African ones now. Then they're willing to basically see how they can fund that, which means then it's called double dipping. You get money from that side, you get money from this side. So we need to take care of opportunities like that, guys.